Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy. I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yes, and we're here on another installment of the Quarantine Dream. We're here today with Steve and Ryan and Andriana, and we'll talk to each individually a little bit. But Ryan, I'm going to start with you because we've had you on a couple times to talk about the CD, and you were one of the instigators. So can I ask you to sort of just give a quick summary for folks who haven't heard the earlier shows about Quarantine? That's why I'm going to ask you to do it. Quarantine Dream. And what it is and how it is. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. It was right around the time we all had to kind of shelter in place, so to speak. I hate all those buzzwords, but I'm going to use them anyways. Right around that time, I was kind of looking for something to do musically that didn't include just sitting in my room making music by myself. So I reached out to Ted Heineshevitz, and he sent me some music he was working on, and I took that and I threw some stuff on top of it, and we liked it and we thought it turned out good. So kind of tossed out the idea because both Ted and I know a lot of people that are working musicians and suddenly found themselves out of work. So the initial idea was, well, let's try to see if other people want to get involved, remotely collaborate. Let's bring some people together and see what happens. And maybe if we make a record, we could sell it and help some out of work musicians. And then literally, I don't know, like maybe 2 weeks after that, I read about Jessa and her situation. And so then Ted and I talked about, well, what if we did this and tried to help her out, because I can't even imagine what she's going through. So it just felt like using our time to benefit something is what it wanted to be. And then it, found out about Jess, and it became a little bit more direct and purposeful, I guess.
And for folks who are listening who don't know about Jessa or Jessa's situation, as few and far between as that may be, Jessa Roque, Gambler's daughter, who was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer, really right about when all of this hits.
Yeah.
As you said, within 2 weeks you heard about it. So I think it really was just about that week. So she is. And a quick update that we have from her. Well, Ryan, you were part of the conversation 10 days ago or so. With you and Ted and Adam Levy and Jessa Roque and Heather and I. She is in Mexico right now, doing some treatment, and it sounds like I think like any health thing, it's up and down. But when we spoke to her, she sounded strong. She looked good. Yeah,
she looked really good. She sounded good. It seemed like she was in good spirits, which was really good to see. So, yeah.
That's. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the song that you did with Andriana. I guess I'll tell folks just a couple of sentences about your background. As I said, I know we've talked with you on earlier shows, but for folks who aren't listening in order.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, sorry, Ryan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind, what was the question again?
Just a little bit about frequency collisions and just your background. Yeah.
Sure. So I've been playing music in Minneapolis for a very long time. In fear of dating myself, back to the mid-90s, I've been playing in bands, and they were always very loud rock and roll bands. And when the last band I was in, they were called the Rockford Mules, ended, I started to become more and more interested in really mellow music, kind of ambient kind of stuff like that, and really started getting interested in like home recording and things like that. So I started to kind of dive into that whole thing. And once I kind of got my feet underneath me, I thought, hey, why don't we put it out in the world? And I needed a name, and Frequency Collisions just kind of sounded right for what I was doing. And so I just have fun making music in my basement now. So, and that's really my background there with that. So
nice. That's fantastic. We'll talk a little about the song that you've done with Andriana. Can I ask you to introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about it, and maybe between the two of you, let us know how did you decide to work on this song together? How was it? Have you worked before? But to start off, Andriana, with an introduction would be fantastic.
Sure. My name's Andriana Lehr, and I have done the singer-songwriter thing around the Twin Cities for, I don't know, 15-ish years, somewhere around there, about as long as I've lived in the cities. And I'm trying to think the first song Ryan and I collaborated on. He sent a track to me. What was it? Is that 2 years ago now, or was it just a year ago?
Yeah, it was probably at least a couple of years ago.
Okay, time's all amorphous now.
Yeah.
But I have always been a big appreciator of Ryan's music, the Frequency Collisions project. I don't remember exactly how we first crossed paths, but I know we played a few gigs together over the years, and he sent a song to me a few years ago that I put some vocals to, and then for this project, he sent another track to me, and we've got a few more kind of they're on the back burner because of me right now. But I mean, just I really love the tone and the feel of what he's doing, and it's doing more of that style of music has been something that I've been interested in dabbling in myself, more than the kind of Americana folk genre that I inhabit myself. So I mean, it doesn't take much for me to get inspired by what he sends my way, and it really came out really beautifully, I think, all together, and it was a lot of fun to do. And so I
think when the project kind of started to get a little more defined, she was on a very short list of somebody who I'd really like to have collaborations with, because I don't, when you collaborate with somebody, at least it's been my experience, there's a lot of give and take. And like, I sent her, like, musically, I think the song was, in my mind, it was pretty much done. And the first thing she sent back with vocals on it, I absolutely loved, and I didn't want to change anything to it. And it was like that on the song we did together a couple years ago. She has such a wonderful sense of melody, and her phrasing and just her voice is remarkable, and it just seems to fit really well. So I get excited every time I get the opportunity to work with her. So it was a lot of fun.
You are very well matched, Andriana. I think your voice just suits this so well in a way. And I love ambient music. I love a lot of that music. And when I started listening to it the first time, I thought, well, I'm curious on how this is going to go. And it just is a perfect match. It seems effortless.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah. It seemed that way from my end. I don't know how she labored over it or how much work went into it, but it seemed like she just went in and just honestly knocked it out of the park, for lack of a better term. So
that definitely was. It didn't take much. Once I kind of knew where it was going, and honestly, my biggest hurdle that I have to get over most of the time is actually just carving out the time and having everything set up and dealing with my own technophobia of sorts. And just that, and living in a very uninsulated house with a 1 and a 3-year-old tends to make getting good vocal takes a big challenge. So those songs on the back burner I'll get to hopefully sooner than later, but this one was awesome to just really spend a few late nights after bedtime working it out, and I loved it. It was a really fun process.
Nice.
Great.
And working on it, what was the focus of the quarantine? Was it was it just working together? What did inspire the song once it came?
Lyrically speaking, it was both quarantine and Jessa's story, really, and just Yeah, I don't know, the lyrics just kind of write themselves sometimes, and that was really one of them. Like the words come out and they fit once I kind of just hum through and figure out a melody, and I don't know. It's a divine inspiration, I guess, if you will. So
what I really loved about the words that she put to it is they can mean something different to whoever's listening to it. It's not obvious what it's for or what it's about. It's very ambiguous, and it's where it can fit a lot of different situations. And I love lyrics like that, because you can kind of pull from it what you need at that moment. And it was very fitting. So I thought from that.
One of the fun things about listening to all of the songs is, as a listener, you don't know when the song was written.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think, oh, that was definitely written during the quarantine, and go, oh, I wrote that 2 years earlier, or, it's definitely with this in mind. I love that about music,
Yeah, and songs are like that sometimes. Like you never know when you're going to need the meaning from a song. Is kind of how I look at it. Like I could hear a song 2 years ago and it doesn't mean anything, and I listen to the same song and that phrase, that chorus, the bridge, whatever, suddenly makes sense, for whatever you're going through at the time. So yeah, I totally agree. Music is wonderful like that.
I just heard an author on public radio today. I can't remember what her name was, but said, when you write the novel, it's yours. And once you publish it, it belongs to the reader.
Yeah, totally.
I think for music, the same. It's all yours until it's handed out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Besides this song that you guys have worked on before, do you usually approach it the same way? Do you give her the melody and she takes off with it, or do you kind of have a story or situation and then the lyrics once again takes off, or you do it together? Or
we
all
haven't,
of yes.
Yeah, we haven't sat in a room together actually and made music yet, anyways. But usually what the two songs we've collaborated on, I've had a piece of music that for the most part has been done, and I just give it to her, and she's got total freedom to sing and put whatever she wants and whatever she hears on top of it, because I trust her to do something really great with it. So it's really nice to work with somebody who you have no doubt she's going to do something amazing with it. So yeah, she wrote all the lyrics to this song. She wrote the melody lines. She did all the harmonies. She did all that stuff. All I had to do was drop it into the mix and twist a few knobs, and it was done. So
yeah, I think the only thing I asked is if we could double the chorus at the end, and then that was done real quick. So yeah.
Amazing what a high level of trust. It's fun to see that.
Yeah, and it's really fun. So I've worked with a few people in the past where it's not easy, and it's a struggle. And nothing in this project was a struggle for me. Yeah. So that was refreshing. That was wonderful. And I think it was supposed to be that way. So
yeah, it's nice to have that level of trust from Ryan too. I have not had a ton of experience collaborating with other people, and especially with people when they write this piece of music and then hand it over. Usually there's some kind of like, no, but I want this, or I don't, and it's just, he's just super trusting and open with the process and what comes out, which is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And I think that's the way it's supposed to work, so for the most part, at least for me, it's when it's smooth and it's easy and you have that trust, and they obviously blends really well together. It's just, you just trust the process, and you trust the artist you're working with, and I don't know, it just worked out really well. I was very happy with it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Steve, we don't want to leave you on this. I enjoyed your song, the front line. Can you tell us just a little bit about your background and how you came to write that song?
Yeah, I live out in Carver County, way out in the sticks, and I'm a farmer. And so I've had, if I give you a little bit of my life, I'm 67 years old. I was going to retire. I was going to go for a few more years yet, but the farm economy went to heck. And so in January, I sold my cows. And the wife and I said, well, we've been tied to the farm all these years. Let's go on a trip. So we went to Australia and New Zealand for about 3 weeks in February. And when we left, COVID was just not on a radar at all. But when we came back, over in Australia and New Zealand, it was a big deal already. Yeah. And we noticed, we're lucky we got back actually. But when I got back, I became really ill. And ended up in the emergency room, and I watched the men and the women on the front line. They were, I don't know how they could do it. Some of them were in there for hours at a time, not an 8-hour shift. I mean, they're 12, 16 hours, and they were, throwing their whole life out there. They could catch this easy enough. And I was really moved by all that. And so when I ended up, I couldn't breathe, and I had some other, thing, anxiety maybe, or I didn't have a fever, so they couldn't give me a test. But I was very sick for quite a while, a couple of weeks. And then I finally came out of that, and I decided to write a song about it. And so that's where that song came from. And then I know Ted. Ted's to blame for a lot of this stuff that happened. But and so I saw the opportunity. I wanted to share it, and then I worked with Nick Hengens. I sent it to him, and he put his mandolin on it. And I sent it to another person who did some drums on it. And then, that's kind of how it all came about. I had another friend that I sent it to who reworked the lyrics a little bit, Stephen Smith. And so that's how a song became a song, I guess, through a real life experience. And I think that's happens. It doesn't happen like that all the time, but I do like to write music that means something or has an experience behind it. And this one, when I hear it still, it strikes a chord with me that takes me back to that day in the emergency room, and still going on today too. There are men and women who are on the front line of fighting the pandemic in the ERs and stuff. So
it's fascinating to hear the background of it.
Yeah.
Are you feeling better now?
Yeah, I am. Very cautious. Life kind of changed. And for me, it's not that big a deal because I feel like I'm quarantined anyways. I'm out here in the country, and I don't see that many people. But yeah, it definitely, to have that theme on the CD.
Yeah.
Something about the pandemic was nice to hear too. So I'm very grateful to been asked and to been able to collaborate with people that I haven't really met Anna yet. I just through emails and sending her a track too. And so it is bizarre, but it worked for me. Both tracks that I worked on, and it could go, you know, really bad to it could turn out really bad, but I think they turned out pretty good.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think it. Yeah, I love the mandolin on it. Very much, but um, it's a somber song.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is. So to hear the background, I go, oh, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, it.
That makes me look at it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Which is.
Yeah,
it's cool. I mean, not to put any, you know, on the situation that brought you to that song, but I look at it differently now, which is kind of cool. So.
Yeah, it is a snapshot in time. And now that we're so used to the pandemic and how to navigate through it, and it doesn't seem as though it was right now. You know, pandemic isn't that big a deal as long as you watch yourself. But in the early days, you know, a few weeks of it, nobody knew what.
Right.
And still, we kind of don't know yet. But it was kind of scary. And maybe it was over dramatic, the song, but it just came out that way.
But as you said, it captured a moment. I mean, I think I was never in a hospital. I have talked to people who have been sick, you know, through my work world and everything, but I haven't had anyone very, very close to me being that sick. And well, it sounds like you weren't able to take the test. You know, if I were a betting woman, I would say you probably had it. I mean, that seems clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that struck me too was, you know, they asked if you want to have the test, but if you have the test, somebody else, you know, we won't have it for somebody else. And I thought, well, I'm old. I made it this long. If I go, fine, you know. So that's one of the stark realities of the whole thing. And I think it's gotten better now, but I don't want to harp on the pandemic too much, but it is fertile ground for writing music, or it definitely brings out. I would have never written that song otherwise. So.
I think it's important to have that record of it. Because as you say, and hopefully, I mean, it's the idea that things will never be the same again. You know, things will never be the same. You know, it's a strong theme of the song, and it's, and I think that that's true. And yet, as you've said, things have lightened. I mean, just restrictions have been lifted. You know, literal restrictions have been lifted, and you can only sustain things for so long. You know, Andriana, I think of you having a 1 and a 3-year-old, and I have had a 1 and a 3-year-old at the same time. And you're so careful with them. You can't sustain the carefulness of having an infant. You know, you sustain the care. I mean, it's just not in human nature to do it, so it's awesome to have that reminder of that, you know, the just how scary it was and how, you know.
Yeah, the other song that I worked on with Andriana was, I'm in Carver County. We have the Arts Consortium of Carver County. It's an art group, and I'm on the board there, and I've done, you know, it's really similar to this project. For the last 6 years, we've come out with a songwriter CD, and but one thing we have there too is called the Pandemic Journal, where you can send in, if you're a writer or you're or you're an artist or you're a musician, you can send in your music. So I sent in a song, I call it Song for Healing, and that is the song that I ended up sending to Andriana. And that one I wrote back in March too. I mean, it was another somber kind of song, but piano piece. And so I guess both of the tunes that I was involved with were generated because of the pandemic. The pandemic went to hit, I guess, you know, would have been, you know, fishing or something, or doing something else, I don't know. So, so that's another byproduct of the whole thing we're going through right now. And it was a real thrill to have to send my song to Andriana and have her come back with what she did, because it was like Ryan had said, a complete package. She sang it, she did all the lyrics and the melody, and she made it a complete song. I mean, I didn't have to do much to it. So that was I'm still blown away by it and very appreciative of her work on it. So.
That is a gift to have.
Direction. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear your backstory of the other song, and then kind of, you know, hearing both of the songs being inspired by the pandemic. And then I kind of took that one lyrically, was definitely much more, I think, inspired by Jessa's story, and also just knowing that she's a woman of faith, and, you know, how important that is to her too. So that I think I really drew on that for lyrics and the feeling behind that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask just a little bit more about the pandemic journal? Is that something that's still going on in Carver County?
Yes. Yep. You can send something into it. I think Ted has a couple of songs he sent into it, and
okay.
I mean, Ted is everywhere. So, but Ted did move to Watertown, which is in Carver County, and that's how. And he looked me up right away he's been involved with one thing we do is a new song collective every month in Victoria. One night, it's usually a Friday night, we'd invite songwriters to come in, and we'd have a theme night. You know, one would be instrumental music only, one would be Night of the Troubadours. We'd have all guys, and then we'd have the women come in, and then we trade off. And we've been doing that for the last year until, I think the last one was March 6th that we did one. And Ted's been real great about hosting that with me. So I'm just trying to get the songwriters out there and give them some exposure. And we have a live audience, so they can, you know, do 3 or 4 of their original songs and talk about it. And then the audience usually ask them questions and give and take kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's on hold now. I'm not sure when it'll come back on again, but so the Arts Consortium has a lot of things for songwriters out there in Carver County. And
nice. And kind of out of that void came, Ryan, your initial impetus for if not for the album, for the idea, for the project, for the idea to the collaboration.
And I think he mentioned this about Ted, like he's involved in so many different things with the music community here in not just his neighborhood, but like, you know, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And like without Ted, this doesn't happen, you know. He's been amazing, and I know he's not here, but he deserves so much credit for just his networking skills and how many people he knows. And I've always been amazed at just how supportive he is of everything musical that goes on around here. I don't know where he finds the time or the energy, but yeah, like I said, this doesn't happen without him at all. So he deserves a lot of credit for this project.
Something I like about the whole project is that everybody, to a fault, and we've talked to at least half of you now, You know, everyone, it just seems like it's been a good experience for everyone, and everyone takes the time to say, I really enjoyed working with this person. I really enjoyed the talents of this person. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful that, you know, starting right with yourself, and just all three of you have been complimentary to working with each other musically, to Jessa, to, you know, it's just been it's such a nice snapshot of the music community in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got a really talented state. And I'm not as immersed in the music scene as I once was. I kind of shelter myself here away and just make sad bastard instrumental music, you know. But yeah, I thought something came out of it that I wouldn't have expected, and that was like all the collaborations between people that didn't know each other prior to this, and something that didn't even cross my mind. And so I hope, and I know Ted and I have talked about this, and Andriana and I have talked about this as well, is just kind of, this project aside, kind of keeping that going, and just, you know, I hope that other people have found that as well, because it's for me, it's been healing kind of during this process, and it's, you know, it's been really good when you're so isolated that you can kind of feel some kind of connection with somebody out there that's kind of going through the same thing, and kind of come together for a mutual goal and project like we did. So I definitely want to keep it going. I mean, as long as we can't, you know, go to shows and do that kind of thing, let's write and record some music, and, you know, share the positive energy and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I've gotten out of it. But
you know what I like about the compilation is you put it on, and it's a good listen from start to finish. I mean, and that's a lot of times, you know, a compilation, I'll listen to my song, and then heck with the rest of them or something. But this one I've listened to it about a dozen times now, and it's very good. I mean, everything flows into each, so it's very nicely done, and the feel of it is really nice. I have to compliment you guys on putting it together.
Oh, well, thank you. But yeah, again, it was such a group effort, and, you know, it started as a small idea, and without I think Ted said something like 45 people or something worked on this all together, you know. Mm-hmm. So, you know, this was a community effort, and yeah, I think we all did something really cool. So I think we should all be very proud of what we did.
Thank you for all your work, Ryan. I haven't been able to express that to Ted like this over Zoom, but if I can tell you thank you for that, you know, thanks for all the work that you put into it, and all of the connecting people and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, I mean, thank you. But, you know, I'm a full believer in kind of the universe does its work if you let it, you know. I don't consider myself a religious man by any means, but I do believe that the universe will give you what you need if you ask for it. And I think this is a great example of that. It's just kind of, you almost step out of the way, so to speak, you know, and just kind of, because this whole thing, I think I've said it a couple times, there wasn't anything hard about this at all. Everybody threw their hat into the ring, and it just kind of came together. So I'm a full believer that that's what the universe wanted us to do, and so we did it, and here we are.
And there was a vacuum for those of us who love music, and we are thankful for that. You know, for us to have some people are coming out with new stuff now, and that's fantastic. Fantastic. But this was one of the first new things to come out for a while, and you know.
Well, thank you for giving us this platform to talk about it so much. That's been a big help. So
Good.
I know, I'm sure Jess is very appreciative. And so, you know, again, you're part of that process and part of the reason why it happened. So, you know, we're all a family, like you said before we went on the air. We're family now, so you're stuck with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I would for sure take you as a family member, Ryan.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this is a good time to remind folks that you can buy Quarantine Dream online. It's on Bandcamp. And I find the easiest way to find it is just to Google Quarantine Dream Minneapolis.
Yep.
Unless anyone's got it better. That's for
No,
sale.
that's what I do. I still don't know the link to it that Ted seems to be able to rattle off like it was a second language, you know. So,
that's okay. Nobody can write that fast anyways.
No.
When it comes down to it's like the old, back in the old days, people give you a phone number. You're like, woof. Let's try to get that done. So Quarantine Dream on Bandcamp. Search it on Google, which is fantastic. And you've been selling some, and that's fantastic.
Yes. Ted makes I guess it's either PayPal or Venmo. I can't remember, but we've been able to give Jessa something every week. So
oh, fantastic!
It's working, you know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we're.
Jess has a lot of medical bills, and as we said, she's right now under some medical treatment in Mexico, and she's got a couple of girls, and yeah, even the best insurance in the world, and I don't know if she has that. It won't cover all of that. No, you know, it just doesn't. So what a generous thing to do. And I think we were chatting, you know, before we went on air, and Steve, I think you were saying it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. It gave so many people something to do. It filled so many needs across the board.
Yeah, I think you're right. For me, it did. I know talking to Ted, it did, and a few people that I've been able to talk to through this, you know, it's been nothing but positive. So, yeah, I have absolutely no complaints, and would definitely do something like this again, for sure. Yeah. Because it was, you know, it was an honor to do it. It was an honor to be part of it. It was an honor to watch it come together. And I'm just really thankful to everybody that participated. They didn't have to, you know, but they did. And they gave oftentimes the most personal part of themselves to this project, which isn't always easy to do, you know. So, yeah, grateful. We've got a wonderful group of people, of musicians in this community. Very selfless people, so.
Including the three of you. And we want to thank you. Do we have any last questions? Heather, I'm looking at you to see.
I don't have any questions. They were answered.
Yeah, no, fun to hear the background of the story. Fascinating to hear, Steve, about your story behind the song. That brings a new light, and to hear how Ryan and Andriana, how you worked so seamlessly together, and from something that such a dreamy song, and to talk about it, it's such a dreamy song along with Steve's song, which, as I said, is very it's somber, and both such a good snapshot of what we're living right now. So thank you. And Quarantine Dream, look for it, buy it.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.